Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at ComputerAmerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@ComputerAmerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. I hope all of you are having a wonderful day. You come back from the weekend, you're happy to get started, and of course, this is going to be, actually, I take that back. This is going to be the second to last week before we take our long break. This will be our longest break of the entire year Computer America takes. And, just for anyone out there who may have not heard before, but we will have a full week of shows this week, a full week of shows next week, and we will start December, obviously 23rd Saturday. Don't have a show anyways, but the entire following week from the 25th to the 29th, Computer America does not broadcast live. So we should have the best of Computer America, which is just, hey, some of our more recent programs that we air, and, you can listen to those if you haven't heard them. But then starting the week after that, I believe we're off the 1st, but then starting that Tuesday, January 2nd, Computer America is right back at it. So with that out of the way, I'm your host, Ben Crossman. Thank you for joining us, and why don't we go ahead and get started with today. Now here's what happened. Hey, this is live broadcast. We do a radio show, and this happens on the fly. And while we try to prepare everything beforehand, but while we try to, schedule things, book things, and prepare things as best we can, because this is live radio, well, sometimes, hey, guests are unable to make it for whatever reason, or there's been a change of plans. And unfortunately, we were unable to reach our guests for today. So if you were tuning in to hear all about, I got this, don't tell me. If you were tuning in to hear all about, wow, I actually just lost it. But if you're here to listen to our guests today, then don't worry, we'll have them back on the show here in just a couple days. But and by the way, that was a HybridBlock. There we go. We were unable to reach them, so we will be doing a full hour of computer and technology news. All right. And yeah, so that entails everything from the latest tech stories, things like that, that we, that we can do. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So why don't we go ahead and just get started here? And folks, if you want to, check out anything that we do here on the program, be it, anything from the show notes, which have links to any articles that we're about to do today, to, the contest, which we do every single Friday. And we just had a winner just this past Friday. And that is sponsored, of course, by Logitech. You can enter that right there at our homepage. And last but not least, if you want to check out the video portion where you can watch Computer America and not just listen. Always fun, not mandatory, still a radio show. So with all that said, why don't we go ahead and, get started here. So here we go. Computer and technology news brought to you by Fire Dragon Security. Here we go. All right, so this first story that we're going to do, and because, hey, we have a full hour now, we can get into some of the larger articles and, hey, talk about what they really, whether they have any validity to them and whether or not, hey, this is something that we agree with here on the show, or if you out there agree with. But there's this article here that really caught my attention because it's one of those things about technology, and technology has been evolving so fast in the consumer space, let alone in all the other spaces. But in the consumer space more than any other, seeing it affect us in our day-to-day lives, and we're not quite sure, like, we definitely know it's appealing. We definitely know it's attractive. We definitely know that people like it. But does that mean it's good for us, or does that mean that it's good for, you know, just the public as a whole? And you could argue that, well, if people like it, then obviously to some extent, how much harm can it really be doing? Because so many people do it, and if there were serious negative repercussions, we would have seen them by now. But, this article that we're about to do kind of asserts that, hey, we are seeing those negative, kickbacks from technology being so pervasive. So this article, we are going to start with this one, and this coming to us from The Verge with James Vincent to thank for this. And former Facebook executive says social media is ripping apart society. Old claims. But he says that no civil discourse, no cooperation, misinformation, and mistruth all rampant. So this is an interesting idea because obviously Facebook was started years ago with the idea that, hey, people come, they put all their personal information out there, they share as much or as little as they would like, and everyone else does the same. And essentially, Facebook is not pulling anything out of us, but rather we're giving it to Facebook. And, you think that, hey, how bad can that really be? Well, here we go. Let's just get started with the article, and we'll talk about this as we go through it. But another former Facebook executive has spoken out about the harm the social network is doing to civil society around the world. Very interesting. Where this executive, who joined Facebook in 2007 and became as vice president for user growth, and he feels tremendous guilt about the company he helped make, which is actually pretty interesting because we've seen other executives or people who found or started a company, they find that in retrospect, they didn't always make the right choice for a society at large. And it seems, I guess in a lot of other industries, you would have to be pretty self-centered or conceited to sit there and think that you could affect entire societies. And, to think that the decisions that you made were the ones that either snowballed or were a direct result to changes that we see around us. We saw this with the gentleman who created the first Keurig and how he created those little pods that go inside of it. He was and still is, carries a lot of guilt because those things do lead to a lot of plastic. They're one-time use. They, get thrown right into a landfill. They're plastic, so they don't decompose. And yeah, he feels, very horrible about that. But again, to think that, hey, I'm just making a little coffee pod for people to make their morning coffee, and then to think that, hey, now thanks to globalization, now thanks to technology, yeah, little impacts, little decisions in, just a few companies can have a worldwide influence. So this seems to be similar here, where again, this was the vice president for user growth. Now he's feeling guilt. And they have a quote here saying, "I think we have created tools that are ripping apart the social fabric of how society works." And, he's a Stanford graduate school of business. And before recommending people take a hard break from social media, which is interesting because he's not really rallying against Facebook. While Facebook is obviously the biggest, largest, and I think, hey, most people use it. But he's saying social media in general, and he, of course, because he used to work for Facebook. Very interesting that a former Facebook employee would come out against it, but I think he's against the repercussions of using social media and being an avid consumer and user of social media in many forms, including Facebook. So, like I was just saying, the criticisms were not only aimed at Facebook, but the wider online ecosystem, saying that the short-term, dopamine-driven feedback loops we've created are destroying how society works. And he said, and he's referring to online interactions driven by hearts, likes, and thumbs ups, And no civil discourse, no cooperation, and misinformation and mistruth. It's not an American problem. This is not about Russian ads. This is a global problem. And, that's very true. That's something that we have seen here just on Computer America, talking time and time again about the ability for companies with very minimal input and just being able to manipulate the systems that are put in place. You can get information out there and people talking about it, even if it's not true. And yeah, it's very, very rare when it's actually vetted for the truth. Yeah, this was made painfully clear to me when there was an article researching the ability for people to influence online discussion and discourse for money. And on a particular site, Reddit, where you think that it's mainly user driven, people upvote, downvote as they see fit, but an in-depth reporting showed that for like $50, and thanks to some clever software, some bots that could manipulate the system, you could have your message plastered across, again, what Reddit calls themselves, the front page of the internet, the number 4 or 3 most visited website on earth. Your advertisement, your subtle advertisement, your product, your opinion could be plastered to millions of people in a single day in only a couple of hours. Again, even if it was not true, even if it was not verified in any way, it doesn't matter. You can get your information out there, and that's not exactly a good thing. So this executive went on to describe an incident in India where hoax messages about kidnapping shared on WhatsApp led to the lynching of 7 innocent people. That's some dramatic real-world repercussions. And he's saying that that's what we're dealing with. And imagine taking that to the extreme, where bad actors can now manipulate large swaths of people to do anything you want. It's just a really, really bad state of affairs. And he says that he tries to use Facebook as little as possible and that his children aren't allowed to use that. And he later adds, though, that he believes the company overwhelmingly does good in the world. And, I will just say that, hey, this is, when he says that they do overwhelmingly does good in the world, I think this was getting back to what I was saying, where Facebook does not inherently publish news. They do not inherently try to sway public opinion. They started, and I believe their mission still is to provide the platform. And the platform can also be used for influencing through advertising and things like that. But at the heart of it, Facebook is simply a platform for people to discuss their views and opinions and share with their friends and family. Again, Facebook primarily does good, but we're seeing a surge of people utilizing this platform for purposes that are very impactful. And that is the hard part. It's how impactful just the smallest amount of effort can be. So the executive's remarks follow similar statements of contrition from others who helped build Facebook into the powerful corporation it is today, where another executive, Mr. Sean Parker, has become a conscientious objector to social media, and the Facebook and others had succeeded by exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. And by the way, what he was talking about there was the ability for Facebook and others to trick your brain into getting that little jolt of excitement, that little jolt of happiness. Every time someone reaches out to you, every time something that you post is shared or liked, every time just any little interaction on social media gets sent to your phone, it's alerted to you, sent to your email. Facebook and others have figured out how to tickle your brain just enough to keep you engaged. And he's saying that's the danger of Facebook and social media, is that it's more about, it has become Facebook's ability to exploit human psyche than it is anything else. And folks, they do it really, really well. So they said that, and they say that, the article continues saying that these former employees have all spoken out at a time when worry about Facebook's power is reaching a fever pitch. Where in the last year, yes, we've talked about the role of fake news, the role of Russian interference in the U.S. election system, and again, all of this taking place on social media. And while other reports have focused on how the social media site has been implicated in atrocities like the ethnic cleansing of Myanmar's Rohingya ethnic group. There you go. And yeah, so in his talk, the executive we were first discussing criticized not only Facebook, but Silicon Valley's entire system of venture capital funding. He says that investor group pump money into not so useful companies rather than addressing the real problems like climate change and disease. Which, we've seen it here on the show. We have many, many companies that come on the show, and they have taken that route. They have taken the venture capital route of showing a proof of concept, showing that they can be scaled up, get a massive influx of cash, and then their entire job is no longer, whatever they first set out to do, but rather it's to turn a profit for their investors. And that's not exactly how society has happened in the past. Take something on a very much smaller scale. Take, something who maybe is like whatever. The point is that companies nowadays, when they come out of Silicon Valley, when they come out of these tech hubs, they're not there to fix problems. They're not there to affect change, but rather when they take that money, they have become ways to pump money back out. And as a self-feeding cycle, and if you don't play the game, then at this point, it really does seem like you are severely outclassed by any kind of money you could possibly run into. So, this article wraps up saying that they also note that although tech investors seem almighty, they've achieved their power through luck more so than skill. Saying that everyone is, I can't say that word on the air, everyone is kidding. If you're in a seat and you have a good deal flow and you have precious capital and there's a massive tailwind of technological change, over time you get one of the 20 companies and you look like a genius. And nobody wants to admit that, but that's the truth. Again, a bit more colorful language in there, but essentially what he's saying is that social media, and even it seems like they're towards the end to a larger extent, tech in its current form seems to be going in the wrong direction. And again, this is all an opinion. This is all someone who admittedly has had some insider influence on Facebook and social media and the tech industry. So it's definitely something to take with a grain of salt, but it's very easy to see what he's saying. There are real world changes in exactly what he's saying. So there's that one. And again, you can find a link to that over at Computer America. And now I think we're going to go ahead and move on over to, all right, instead of another long one, let's get to a quick and short, but something you definitely need to know about. And this has to do with HP. Not the first time we've heard about this, and not the first company we've heard doing this, but this seems to be something that, you really should watch out for. And this is a great time to talk about it because holiday season, many people out there may be gifting new laptops, or people may be getting new laptops. And honestly, one of the best things you can do is this right here, is removing certain things from computers. So let's get started. This is coming to us from BBC News. And yeah, HP laptops found to have hidden keylogger. Keylogger, honestly, just by the headline, I can honestly say that this is probably a byproduct of what it does. It's not primarily a keylogger, but rather it's an all-encompassing flow of information from your laptop to HP or other companies that have paid to put their software on this computer, and they disguise it as diagnostic. They disguise it as ongoing experimentation so that they can give you a better user experience if they collect all of your data. And yeah, again, this is not the first, and it probably won't be the last time that we talk about this. But here we go, saying that hidden software that can record every letter typed on a computer keyboard has been discovered pre-installed on hundreds of HP laptop models. Keyword there, hundreds of HP laptop models. So this isn't just about hundreds of laptops. This wasn't someone broke in and affected just a couple. This is probably close to their entire lineup, of HP's entire lineup of computers. So security researcher Michael Ming found the key login code in software drivers pre-installed on HP laptops to make the keyboard work. Saying that HP said that more than 460 models of laptop were affected by the potential security vulnerability, and that it has issued a software patch for its customers to remove the key logger. The issue affects laptops in the EliteBook, ProBook, Pavilion, and Envy ranges, and among others. And HP has issued a full list of affected devices dating back to, get this, folks, 2012. 2012. Wow. So, in a statement, the company said that HP uses Synaptic touchpads in some of its mobile PCs and has worked with Synaptics to provide fixes to their error for impacted HP systems, available via the security bulletin on HP.com. So, the security researcher, Mr. Ming, discovered the keylogger while inspecting Synaptics touchpad software to figure out how to control the keyboard backlight on an HP laptop. He said that the keylogger was disabled by default. That's always good. But an attacker with access to the computer could have enabled it to record what a user was typing. Not so good. So even though it was turned off by default, which is certainly good, but because the option was there and it was so easy, and because it's found within the driver for the keyboard itself, meaning it's very low level, even if it was turned on, then antivirus in general would not have caught it, because it's not an alternative executable that's running in the background. It's not something that's accessing it from any weird place, but rather it's actually coming from the keyboard. Because the option is there, you're right. If someone figured out how to remotely activate this and decide where the data was going to, well, that would be bad for all of these HP laptops. So, according to HP, it was originally built into the Synaptic software to help debug errors. Which is what I said at the beginning, many of these software programs are disguised as diagnostic testing or user improvement feedback, things like that. Those are always better off turning off, not submitting your data or your information, just better off not doing it. So it acknowledged that it could lead to a loss of confidentiality, but it said neither Synaptics nor HP had access to customer data as a result of the flaw, and that in May, a similar keylogger was discovered in the audio drivers pre-installed on several HP laptop models. And at the time, the company said the keylogger code had been mistakenly added to the software. Don't you hate it, folks, when you mistakenly add malware to your systems? I hate when that happens. But yeah. what I was saying that, a lot of you may be receiving laptops or giving laptops, maybe from HP or many, many other brands. I don't want to say that HP is the only one that perpetrates this, but one of the best things you can do, and folks, if you're listening to Computer America, I love you, but I know that you are hopefully at some level better than the average tech user. You're here, you're listening, and hopefully you're learning along with us, but you should know some very basic things, such as how to go into a system, your computer, and be able to uninstall programs that should not be there, that serve no purpose. And you should know about the concept of bloatware, where computers, they're subsidized because, hey, making a computer is actually a pretty expensive business. And at the factory, these companies approach many, many laptop makers, and they say, we'll give you X amount of money if you install X program that simply does XYZ on all of your computers, and we'll pay you this much money. They do it, they get paid, and all of you now have a piece of software pre-installed on your computer you never wanted, and you probably will never want. So what I'm saying to our listeners is that it is your responsibility. If you're giving or getting a laptop, go through it, uninstall any programs you don't think you need, because they can cause issues later on. And beyond that, make sure that all the security patches are up to date. Make sure that you're giving something that definitely works. If you hand someone who does not know about computers a laptop fresh out of a box from a big store or a big retailer, that's going to lead to more problems down the road. I'm not saying that you have to. I'm saying that it would be nice if you helped those who could not help themselves and made sure that you're actually giving a gift that won't come back to bite them or yourself. Because, hey, guess what? If you give a computer and it starts to get really slow because, XYZ program decided to, kick in and it's sucking up all the processing power, well, guess who's going to deal with it? Probably you. So there you have it. That's my story. And HP sounds like they have a hidden keylogger left in there, if reports are to be believed, left in there by the debugging side of the keyboard company. But the fact that it was there and that someone was able to find it and potentially someone out there could have been able to activate it, that's a big problem on the majority of HP laptops. So, not really a full-blown scandal, but it's there and it's a danger. Be aware, go get your system patched. Again, if you have a laptop from HP since 2012, there's a patch available on their website. So, we have about enough time to decide which story we're going to do next, and then we are doing computer and technology news for the entire second part of the show. But yeah, let's see. We have a lot of different stories here. Definitely want to talk about how the director of the FBI again goes to Congress and remarks how encryption is making law enforcement difficult, as in he wants to weaken encryption. We'll of course talk about that. We'll talk about the unofficial version of a cryptocurrency wallet available on Apple's App Store, which I'm sure by now has probably been taken down. And let's see. But I think when we come back, we're going to talk about the Russian hackers who were able to steal $10 million. $10 million from ATMs through bank networks, where the intruders have exploited transfer system for the past 18 months. Something about Russians and Ukrainians and stuff like that. They're some of the best hackers when it comes to banking, ATMs, and things like that. It's always impressive how they're able to do these things and how much they're able to steal without getting caught. So again, we'll get to that story and more when we come back to Computer America. And folks, stay tuned. More of this, of course, all again brought to you by Fire Dragon Security. We'll be right back. Computer America.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago. We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 31 minutes past the hour as we continue on here and do computer and technology news. Once again, if you miss any part of the show, please feel free to go to computeramerica.com. We have the archives, video, and audio. And also be sure to check us out on the entire show in podcast form, available wherever podcasts are heard. Absolutely free. Check that out. So, like I was saying, our guest was unfortunately not able to join us today, and we have been doing computer and technology news, and we are about to jump into this one about Russian hackers who have stolen $10 million. It's a lot of money. $10 million from ATMs through bank networks. So the intruders have exploited transfer systems for 18 months. This brought to you, this of course is, published in Engadget. Mr. John Fingus, one of the most prolific writers I have ever seen. I don't know how he does it. But yeah, he's saying that hackers were able to infiltrate the network and steal $10 million. So let's go ahead and get started with this. Saying that let's go ahead and do that. There we go. So saying that a recent rash of bank system hacks goes deeper than you might have thought, and that it also includes stealing cash directly from ATMs, and that researchers at Group IB have published details of Money Taker, a group of Russian hackers that has stolen close to $10 million from American and Russian ATMs over the past 18 months. And that these attacks, which targeted 18 banks, 15 of which were American, compromised interbank transfer systems that hijack payment orders, and money mules would then withdraw the funds at machines. And money mules, we saw this working with, I think it was a string of hacks that happened a couple of years ago, where it was, someone found an exploit with ATMs, where essentially they could use altered, pretty much any card with a magnetic strip, alter the data on the magnetic strip. And they were able to, even though they had zero bank balance and even though they had zero withdrawal limit, they were able to withdraw essentially the entirety of the ATM's cash reserves with faked magnetic strips. And yeah, we saw that where, sure, this was happening, and like many ATMs here in the United States, and especially over in Europe, they were able to film these people, but what they found was even after they'd caught just a few of the people that actually stole the money from the ATMs, they used the term money mules. They would send low-level people, just people that they could hire online or people that they knew. I take that back. People that they didn't know, and say, hey, we'll pay you $1,000 if you go and get us $100,000 and send it to us. You get to keep a certain portion of that. And yeah, that's essentially what we're seeing here all over again, where the people that actually withdrew the money were probably not the ones pulling the strings. So, saying that the first known attack was in the spring of 2016 when Money Taker hit First Data's Star network, and that they also compromised Russia's AWCRB network and swiped documents for Ocean Systems' FedLink system used by roughly 200 banks across the Americas. I think that's what John Fengus is really trying to hammer home with this one, is that while this happened in, over in Russia and this happened in Europe, it primarily happened to US banking systems. So, it wasn't like these were inadequate systems, they were just compromised systems. So, and in some cases, they said that the group stuck around after the initial heist, where at least one US bank's documents were stolen twice, while the perpetrators kept spying on Russian bank networks. And while it's not clear who's behind Money Taker, you're only hearing about them now because they're particularly clever, where they've repeatedly switched their tools and methods to bypass software and have taken care to erase their tracks, where, for instance, they've borrowed security certificates. This is crazy. They've borrowed security certificates from the US federal government, Bank of America, Microsoft, and Yahoo, where one Russian bank did manage to spot an attack and return some of the ill-gotten gains. So, this particular hack didn't directly affect users since it was more about intercepting bank-to-bank transfers than emptying personal accounts. However, it illustrates both the sophistication of modern bank hacks and the vulnerability of banks themselves. And while it would be difficult to completely prevent the hacks, it's clear that the attackers are having a relatively easy time of making off with funds and sensitive data. There you have it. So, that's about as far as that article takes it, but it sounds like there's no resolution really to the end of this, but rather this is more a reporting of a known problem. This network is probably still out there, probably still pulling their same tricks, and yeah, 10 million today. We'll see how much they get in the near future, but banks are starting to wisen up. It's that whole game of cat and mouse where who does it better, who does it faster. It's an arms race between hackers and security experts. And sometimes the hackers win, and sometimes, the security experts are on their game. So let's go ahead and let's do this. You may have heard it before. This coming to us from Engadget and Billy Steele. Check this out. I personally have never used the service. I have definitely heard about it though, because it was all the rage. It was cool years ago when it first came out. And it's the app Shazam that goes on your smartphone. I'm sure you've heard about it, where you hold your phone up to the radio, to television, to anything that's playing music, and Shazam identifies it and offers to let you buy it directly, just like that, very simply. So, well, they've been around for quite a while, but just now, Apple has confirmed, yes, the one that makes the phone and has Siri, they've confirmed that they are purchasing Shazam, the app. So, this is coming to us from Engadget, and again, Billy Steele, saying that was fast, following reports on Friday that Apple was planning to buy music recognition app Shazam. CNBC reports that Cupertino has confirmed the purchase and that terms of the deal weren't disclosed, but TechCrunch estimates that, you're looking at about $400 million being swapped hands, which part of me is like, seems like a lot. I mean, Shazam certainly has the name brand recognition, but what they do is not strictly unique anymore with artificial intelligence, learning, AI, what have you. But one thing that they do have is something that is pretty rare in Silicon Valley and pretty rare as far as tech companies go. They actually have a profitable business, and that is worth its weight in gold. So, again, $400 million. They said that the site was also the first to report the news of the acquisition Friday afternoon. And they have a quote here from Apple saying that we are thrilled that Shazam and its talented team will be joining Apple. Since the launch of the App Store, Shazam has consistently ranked as one of the most popular apps for iOS, and that Apple Music and Shazam are a natural fit, sharing a passion for music discovery and delivering great music experiences to our users. Ding, 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 shows you right there that Shazam will now take you directly to iTunes and Apple Music, let you buy it through Apple Music, and without a doubt, this functionality will eventually, very shortly I bet, be folded in with Siri's capabilities. So, let's see, as Engadget mentioned last week, Shazam's tech already works with Siri, oh, there you go, to identify songs, and that it's available for use on both iOS and the desktop. And pairing Shazam with Apple Music makes a lot of sense, but given the fact that the app also offers image recognition tools, Tim Cook and company could have bigger plans for its new purchase than just audio, where maybe if you just show them, an album cover, they'll be able to find the album just like that. But it's hey, it is a pretty good fit. And as I was mentioning, this past quarter, I believe, was one of the first times that Shazam, the company behind the app, actually turned a profit. And a lot of companies out there that you hear about, you mentioned this earlier with venture capital, is that many companies that you know and love that you use every day aren't actually profitable, and instead rely on flaming dumpsters of venture capital money to keep them afloat. And to actually have a company that doesn't need that doesn't need constant attention and resources, but rather has its own user base and can, spit out money, that makes it much, much, much more attractive for an acquisition from a much larger organization, i.e. Apple. Now, so that's probably why we haven't seen this acquisition before. $400 million. I mean, that's a pretty darn big number. Congratulations to them. But this is a drop in the bucket compared to the cash reserves that Apple has at its disposal. And it's good. It's good to finally see Apple use and throw some of its weight around to actually get some results. So there you have it. And yeah, we'll see how quickly that gets folded into the usability of iTunes and Apple products as a whole. So let's see. Let's do this one. Speaking of Apple, but this was going to fold into our guest today pretty nicely, but unfortunately they weren't able to make it, but we can still talk about this, where an unofficial version of My Aether Wallet app is number 3 on Apple's App Store. Check that out. So, an unofficial app for the popular My Aether Wallet service is being sold for $5 in Apple's iOS App Store, and this was spotted by TechCrunch, where the week-old My Aether Wallet digital wallet app, which at best, and by the way, again, this is coming to us from The Verge, and they said, again, at best, this is misleading because there is a company out there called MyAetherWallet that, hey, does produce a product very similar to this, but this is not them. And they said that it's a digital wallet app, which is misleadingly named at best or a scam at worst. We've seen both before hit iTunes. And it rose to the third most popular ranking in the paid finance category over the weekend, where it still resides as of the time of the publication. And the app's developer is listed as Nam Lee, who has no relation to the service and no history with Bitcoin, where the other apps include a Panda Warrior game and a fishing game. Sounds good. And that myetherwallet.com is one of the most popular services for storing cryptocurrencies, but it doesn't have an official app in the Apple's App Store. And a digital wallet is comprised of a public address where money can be sent and a private key known only to the owner. And the app, this is again the one that is fake and on the iTunes store. So be careful if you're looking for this. It's fake, and they claim to store the key encrypted locally on your device, but turning over your Bitcoin to an unknown wallet developer with a purposely misleading name is a risky proposition, to say the least. So, I mean, hey, if nothing else, if you have this app and you try to send or set up your public key and your private key, and you put that within an app that is, of course, going to be sending data to and from their own servers, you very well could be giving away any Bitcoin or cryptocurrency you have stored in this wallet. So, let's see, as of the time of this publication, Bitcoin is currently at $16,000 and pushed upwards today as futures contracts for the cryptocurrency began trading, and Bitcoin's price is extremely volatile, and it has surged 1,600% since the beginning of the year, where Coinbase, an app that lets users buy cryptocurrency, became the #1 downloaded app in the App Store last week. Folks, cryptocurrency, it's exciting, it's interesting, it's cool to see people making fortunes, but that's a whole field that, again, I feel most comfortable when we have someone with some experience in the field on to talk with us about it. Because personally, I tend to stay arm distance away from cryptocurrency in general. So, let's see. Okay, so that's how that one went. Again, if you are looking at MyAetherWallet, they have a service very popular, myetherwallet.com, that lets you do all the public and private keys, but the app is unaffiliated, but simply with the same name. And that's a problem. So, let's see. Let's go ahead and do this one about Microsoft and quantum computers. We have talked with IBM as they were developing their first quantum computer. They actually let us use it. It was very, very cool. They let a lot of people use it, and even universities out there who are looking to take up some of those resources, you could run your very own experiment on the platform. Well, the long promised wait of quantum computers seems to be just on the horizon. This coming to us from Gadget, Ms. Mallory Locklear, saying that Microsoft offers developers a preview of its quantum computing kit, where the kit provides tools for learning how to code for quantum computers. And folks, let me tell you, learning how to code on a quantum computer, as someone who has done it, is very much different than lines of code I have ever seen anywhere else. And at the same time, it's supposed to be much more simple, because quantum computers are still in their infancy, and hey, the programs that you write for them are actually pretty simple compared to many other programs that we see every day and use every day. Let's get started with the article saying that developers hoping to help get in on the quantum computer train early can now get started with Microsoft's Quantum Developer Kit, which is a free preview version of which was released today. There you have it. And they said that the kit, there's the website, and they said that the kit, which was first announced at Microsoft's Ignite conference in September, includes the Q-Pound programming language, a quantum, or maybe Q hash, or I don't know, probably Q-Pound, a quantum computing simulator that can simulate 30 logical qubits of power, and a companion collection of documentation, libraries, and sample programs that will help developers get a better foothold on the complex science behind quantum computing. And again, this is going, really, I'm glad that Microsoft is doing this, because this is going to require a whole different field of programmer. It's not applicable. It is not one-to-one, where if you work with, let's say, Python, you are now, hey, you now can work on quantum computers. It's not analogous. So this is good. And saying that the simulator will allow the developer to test programs and debug code with their own computers, which is necessary since there really aren't many quantum computers for them to test their work on yet. And that Microsoft is also offering a more powerful simulator, one with over 40 logical qubits of computing power. Folks, the one that IBM let us check out, I believe, if memory serves, only had 20 qubits of power. But hey, don't let that fool you. 20 to 40 doesn't sound like a huge leap, but in reality, it really is. It's super impressive. And in fact, they said that once quantum computers can reliably get to over 100 logical qubits of computing power, that's when you start to see true shift from traditional computers and traditional computer systems into quantum computers. So they said that through its Azure Cloud Computing Service, and because the kit is integrated into Microsoft Visual Studio Developer Tool, many aspects of the new kit will be familiar. And they said that, quote, what you're going to see as a developer is the opportunity to tie into tools that you already know well, services you already know well, and that there will be a twist with quantum computing, but it's our job to make it as easy as possible for the developers who know and love us to be able to use these new tools that could potentially do some things exponentially faster, which means going from a billion years on a classical computer to a couple of hours on a quantum computer, which is true. That's seems like hyperbole, but that is the promise, is being able to compute very, 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 very complex systems, and what would take a computer that can only identify in zeros and ones, and being able to be 0 or 1 or both at the same time speeds up the whole process a whole lot. So Microsoft getting in on quantum computers, and I can only imagine hoping to be the go-to. Again, they said that they use the Visual Studio, hoping to be the go-to software for developers who want to work on quantum computers. It's a great way to position yourself. Let's see what happens. So we have time for one article left, I think. And why don't we talk about, hey, maybe we talk about I don't feel like talking about those. Yeah, so why don't we go ahead and talk about a potential gift, and something that we talked about with our guest a couple of weeks ago. And it wasn't available yet, but I believe at this time it is now available. Where, here we go, this is about Google and their high-quality home Mac speaker. Now it goes on sale for $399. But we knew the price, saying that it's a Google Home voice assistant with a lot more audio power, which was always promised. So think of this, once again, like your traditional Google Home that costs, I think it was like $99, $49. They have like the little tiny one that was like $39. They have a larger one that was like $130, and this one once again is now $400. Probably one of the most expensive. Like seriously, $50 more than even the Apple counterpart that got pushed back a couple of months while they work on it. But let's see. So this is brought to you by Steve Dent in Gadget. And yeah, saying that Google launched its high-quality Home Max speaker with Google Assistant in October, and the last we heard via a Best Buy leak, and that it was set to arrive on December 11th, and that date was spot on, as it turns out, as the Home Max has indeed gone on sale at both Best Buy and Verizon. It's also live on Google's own online store. So, the Home Max speaker, for those of you who do not remember, sports a pair of 4.5-inch high excursion woofers. Dogs, but woofers. And custom tweeters. See, I probably need to get much better at audio equipment, because it says high excursion woofers and custom tweeters. If you put that into something, and like that could be completely fake, and I have to sit here and go, oh yeah, those are great woofers and tweeters. Those are amazing woofers and tweeters. He could be pulling my leg. But suffice to say, if those are real things, they're saying it puts it in the same class as serious audio products, like the Sonos Play 5. And that was how this Google Home Max was positioning itself, where if you just want the smart home capabilities, if you're just looking for the ability to control devices with your voice, this is probably overkill. But if you're looking for something that could provide great sound in an entire room, then this was going to be for you. So the author said that they had a brief hands-on with it during the launch and under controlled conditions, and found it to be extremely loud, well-balanced, and crystal clear with well-defined bass. What you want from a speaker. So Google Home Max, as mentioned, costs $400 and comes in charcoal and white with both Chromecast and voice-controlled Google Assistant. Of course, that's $100 less than the Sonos Play 5, which doesn't have either of the other features. So, as it comes down to audio equipment, it's about on par or a little bit cheaper. But when it comes to Google Assistant, it may be one of the only real, true professional speakers that has Google Assistant. And, like they said, Google Assistant was coming to Sonos One in 2018. So next year, the Sonos Play 5 will have it, but for now, does not. And they said that there's no word on it coming to other products. So there you go. And once again, the Home Max, the article update said that it's only available currently through Google. Go buy it through Google, but hey, I'm sure eventually it will be making its way to Best Buy and others. So there you have that. Folks, we really just don't have time to get into any more stories. So one of the other stories that was good that we unfortunately did not get a chance to get to was this one from Mallory Locklear, and saying that researchers create prosthetic hand that offers more lifelike dexterity. And they have a gentleman using it, and he's actually able to play on the piano with a prosthetic hand. Very impressive, and it shows that you can actually move the individual fingers of a prosthetic hand and not just close, grip, open, what have you. It's getting closer to that point where prosthetics are going to be as good as our natural body parts, which is great for people who need them. And folks, some other stories that we just did not get to, or we won't be able to, include the FCC and of course their vote on Thursday. There's a lot of information coming out about that, so keep an eye out for the vote Thursday. And once again, we're not able to talk about the FBI director. Folks, music means that we're just flat out of time. If you want to find out any and everything we did here on the show today, you can check us out, computeramerica.com, full show notes, as well as the podcast version of the show, the video portion of the show, and more. Check us out, computeramerica.com. You won't be mad. So if you're listening to us on IRN, if you're listening to us on Blog Talk Radio, if you're listening to us anywhere and everywhere, thank you so much. Have a great day. Catch you tomorrow. Bye-bye, everyone.